God's not a genie in a bottle. Because God is our Father, a lot of kids see God the way they see their dad. A lot of people fail because they don't actually understand what is required of them. It's easy to make somebody stronger. It's easy to make somebody bigger. It's really hard to make somebody, more confident. It's really hard to make somebody not care about what was said about them on Instagram. It's really hard to not have people compare themselves, what they look like and all those things. He was just like, yeah, you wouldn't survive a day in my brain. And it was just like, again, he was just kind of joking, but it was like, dang, like that's a really deep quote. Life is about what's optimal, not ideal. So it's not, hey, I want everything to be perfect, but what's optimal given the situation that you're in.
What does being a husband mean to you, and how has that changed your life?
Those of us that are called to marriage, we need to treat that as a calling from God, not just like, oh, hey, I like this girl, she's pretty, I want to have sex with her, so I'm going to marry her. It's no. Like being married is serious business. And I think a lot of men don't take it seriously enough. And that's why, divorce rates are so high.
Growth or peace?
Oof.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Words of Encouragement podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Made Different. Today, I got a special guest, but before I jump into that, please don't forget to like this video, share this video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel for more episodes just like this. All right, today's guest serves as the head strength and conditioning coach at Canada's largest private Christian university, Trinity Western University, located in Langley, British Columbia. For over 6 years, he has helped transform not just the strength and conditioning department, but the culture surrounding it, developing athletes through discipline, consistency, accountability, and purpose. His leadership goes beyond physical training, using servant leadership as a foundation and intentionally reflecting the love of Jesus in how he shows up for the people he leads. Outside the weight room, he's a devoted husband and a proud father of 2 beautiful daughters, roles that continue to shape how he leads, loves, and lives with intention. This is a conversation about strength, leadership, faith, and identity, and what it really means to build people from the inside out. Please help me welcome my guest, Cole Hergott, to the podcast. How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm honored to be on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for even being on, man. I truly appreciate it. All right. So before we talk coaching, who is Cole when nobody's watching? What are you trying to become as a man?
I mean, I'd like to say that I'm the same person in front of people as when I'm not in front of people. I know one of the quotes that I really like is character is who you are when no one's watching. And I try to exemplify that. I'm a hardworking person. I'm somebody who strives to be the best in everything they do, whether that is, being a husband, being a father, being a coach. But yeah, when people aren't watching, when it's just me alone, I'm still those same things. I'm still trying to be, the best, whether it's reading, whether it's, praying, whether it's, going for walks and just doing things that kind of help free up my mind and allow me time to think and process. I'm a heavy thinking person, and I'm relatively introverted. So I like to be, I like to recharge on my own, like I said, going for walks, prayer walks, and just trying to digest life and just figure out kind of what God's calling me to do and what's the best way to go about doing those things.
Got you. Where does that foundation come from?
A lot of that comes from my upbringing. So I was raised in a Christian home and just was taught those values early on. So my parents own a grain farm, and so a lot of childhood was praying for good weather and, praying for safety and because that's what farming is. Farming comes down to you got to trust that God's going to give you the environment that you can grow grain. And so a lot of that stuff I learned from my parents, from my mom, because, we'd be at home with my mom praying for good weather for dad. And then when I'm with dad, he was teaching me the values of hard work and doing things right the first time. And I still will never forget me and my brother. We'd go out and do chores and do all this stuff, and we'd always do it as quick as we could, and then we'd race back in the house and whatever, be playing video games or watching TV or just goofing around as kids. And I remember one time specifically that we didn't do whatever the job was to the best of our abilities. And my dad had
Mm.
to call us back out again and do it. And I'll still won't ever forget his words. He said to me, he said, Cole, if you're going to do something right, do it, or if you're going to do something, do it right the first time.
Yeah.
And I was probably maybe like 8 years old at the time. And that has just stuck with me ever since then. It's like, whatever I'm going to do in life, I want to do it to the best of my ability. I want to make sure I get the job done right. So that I don't have to go out and do it again when I, interrupt my cartoons or whatever we were watching. But even just every other aspect, it's like you don't get another shot at life. You only get
Yeah.
one shot. So why not do it to the best of your ability and get the most out of it for yourself, for the people you love, the people around you. So that's kind of where it comes from, is pretty much just farming.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. My father had a similar quote too, man. He used to tell me, if you're gonna put your name on something, make sure you do it the right way. Something
Mm,
very similar.
yeah.
So yeah, I understand that sentiment. So farming, okay, you had a praying mother and a hardworking father. What did you learn about God during that time growing up at an early age?
Oh, I learned that God doesn't. Oh, I would say I learned that God doesn't reward you just because you do a good job or just
Mm,
because you pray. So I lost my grandfather. How old would I have been? I would have been in grade 7, so I would have been like 13 or so. I lost my grandfather to cancer. I lost My mom lost her dad to Lou Gehrig's disease, like when she was
wow.
in grade 12. Like I never even met that grandfather. So there was not that I went through a ton of hardships, but when I was younger, I learned that just because you pray doesn't mean you get what you want. Like God's
Mm,
not a genie in a bottle, and and there are things that God has designed and destined and planned, um, and that was something that I kind of learned growing up. But I also learned that that doesn't mean that you don't ask. That doesn't mean
yeah.
that He doesn't love you. God has a plan for you, for everyone, and it's up to us to kind of figure out what that is. And hopefully, we walk alongside Him, through prayer, through reading Scripture, through talking to other people, through going to church, through all these different means, I guess that we as humans have come up with, or that God has given us.
Yeah.
But I would say that I learned that, yeah, it's not God's not transactional. It's
Yeah.
not okay, I'm gonna dot my I's, cross my T's, and then God gives me everything I want. He is faithful to those who are faithful to Him, and we know that. But faithfulness doesn't mean you win the lottery. Faithfulness doesn't mean, you again get your wildest dreams. It means that you will be comforted, that you will be supported through whatever God gives you. So even going back to the farming, we didn't always get good weather.
Yeah.
We didn't, we got hail, we got snow when we didn't want, all these negatives. But my dad didn't just throw up his hands and say, "Oh, screw this, I'm not farming anymore. God's being mean to me." He said,
Yeah.
"Okay, we're going to deal with this." And you kind of kept walking through it. And sure enough, at the end of every year, almost every single year, my parents, even like in the middle of the farming season, it's like, oh, it's not going to be a good crop this year. Everybody's complaining. At the end of the year, lo and behold, we had a really good crop, or we had a better crop than maybe some other farmers.
Okay.
And to me, that again wasn't if I pray things are going to work out. It was, if you just stay true to the course, and if you
Mm,
don't, you know, curse God and, again, say to heck with you, to heck with all this. If you just thank you, God, for another day. I didn't want rain today, but you gave me rain, and I'm going to do the best with that.
yeah.
You will come to the end way better off than if are just upset and mad and kind of throw in the towel. So that, I would say, is something I learned early on, and um, I haven't even realized until I've had this conversation, but that's kind of really stuck with me, is just farming.
Yeah.
Farming was a lot of good teaching moments in life, for sure.
Wow. Wow. That's good, man. That's good. When you say that, it reminds me of Jesus was God in the flesh, so it reminds me of when he went to probably like one of his last prayers. He was praying for that cup to be removed from him, you know. But he said, Father, not my will, but your will be done. So I think that's something that we all have to remember at times where we asking for something, but it's ultimately up to his will, not our will. So that's good, man. Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, no spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten by. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace. So a head strength and conditioning coach, what does that even mean?
So that means I spend all day, every day in the weight room, coaching our athletes. So here at Trinity, we have just over 300 athletes across 13 teams. And so pretty much all day we're running sessions, coaching them in the weight room, trying to get them bigger, faster, stronger, so that come Friday, Saturday night when we play whoever we're playing, hopefully we're the better team and we go out and win. So there's obviously a lot of back end work and admin stuff, but basically
Yeah.
my job boils down to making athletes physically better for their sport.
Okay. Now, when you say head strength, is that like mental strength or is that more like a neck muscle? Like, what is that?
Oh, head just means like I'm the head coach of that
Ah, got you.
position. So
Okay.
I'm the head
Okay.
strength coach. Yeah.
See, you asked and you received the answer. So
There you go.
that's good. That's good. Okay. How did you get in that role? What drove you into
So
that?
I loved playing sports when I was growing up, and I wanted to be a professional hockey player to be specific. So I wanted to play in the NHL. And as I kind of went through as a young athlete, I realized that I needed to be, bigger, faster, stronger. And so I started to do some physical training myself and just fell in love with it. Just loved looking things online, YouTube and all those things were relatively new when I started out. So it was fun to kind of see what other people were doing and, what the professional athletes were doing and what I kind of wanted to do. And I fell in love with going to the gym and becoming fitter and saw a lot of good carryover to my sporting performance as well as to my looks as well. As a young boy, that's kind of what I wanted to look like a bodybuilder as everybody
Yeah.
does, which I
Yeah.
still don't. But anyway,
Yeah.
and so as I kind of went through high school, I kind of fell more in love with the physical training side and started to pursue a degree in human kinetics and exercise science, actually here
Okay.
at Trinity after I graduated and played on the men's hockey team here that first year. And when I was here, it was my first time getting exposed to my first strength coach. His name is Andrew Hemming, and just like a God-fearing man and just the nicest guy ever. And I remember like first couple times after I met him, it was like, this is who I want to be. Like, this is
Yeah.
what I kind of want to do with my life. And then hockey didn't pan out the way I wanted to, but my degree was going really well, and I was getting a lot of internship opportunities on the strength and conditioning side, and so I kind of just dove hard into that and really just kept falling deeper and deeper in love with the process, with the science, with working with people, with instead of now me trying to be better as an athlete, trying to make others better and trying to pour
Man.
into them and finding a lot of joy in seeing others succeed, because I didn't see myself succeed as much. And so this was a kind of a good way to do that. And um, after my undergrad, I went and got my master's degree and then at another local university here. And then this job ended up opening up and threw my name in the hat. And here we
Okay.
are, yeah, 6.5 years later. So it,
Okay.
it was one of those things where like I pursued hockey so hard and it just didn't pan out. And as soon as basically I made the switch over to strength and conditioning, it was one of those like, this is what God has called me to do, because it was just boom right away,
Yeah.
like to the quote unquote to the top. Like I just
Yeah.
this doors kept getting open, and it was pretty cool to see.
Made your path straight.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
That's what he does, man. That's what he does. So you've been in that role for 6.5 years. What's one moment where you realize that's is bigger than just the athletic side?
Oh, I would say um, maybe not one specific moment, but I've gotten messages from athletes who have graduated and kind of moved on, and I'll message them on their birthday or something, or we'll just chat in passing, and it's pretty cool to hear them talk about the impact that the strength program had on them, now as a husband or as a wife and a parent, because obviously a lot of the characteristics to be a good athlete, especially in the weight room, you need discipline, hard work, accountability. And I preach those all the time. And I believe those make a good human and make a good Christian, make a good athlete. Like they're all those intangible qualities. And so it's pretty cool to hear them talk about years later of like, the the accountability that you had, showing up to the
Mm,
weight room, showing up to sessions, working hard, like that makes me a better husband because I got to show up for my wife. I got to show up for my kid. I got to show up for work. Like, I
yeah.
can't show up late to work, like those kind of things. So when I get messages like that, that, that really, adds more fuel to the fire of like, this is a pretty cool job. Um, of getting to work with athletes and just young individuals on, who they're going to be for the rest of their lives.
Okay. That's pretty awesome, man. You're having a lot of impact. That's good. That's good. Um, I know a lot of times we get into an environment, new environment, and the culture is hard. So what was like the resistance that you felt once you first started? Was it with the athletes, the staff, the system, or yourself?
Oh, a lot of it was with the athletes. So when I started, so as I kind of mentioned, I graduated from here, Trinity, in
Yeah.
2018, and then I got hired back here in 2019. So I was only gone for a year before I came back. So when I come back as, the boss, as the head strength coach, I'm now coaching athletes who 2 years ago we were sitting in the same exercise science
Mm.
classes together, as I was maybe the senior and they were the second year. So now these
Yeah.
senior athletes see me as, well, just Cole. Like it's just,
Yeah.
he's one of the
Yeah.
guys. He's just a bro. And I was really trying to establish myself as obviously a professional and be taken seriously. And so it was a positive from a relationship side because I knew everybody knew me. Like there wasn't an awkward, like, hey, I'm Cole. Like this is kind of my thing.
Yeah.
But it was really hard to get past, um, yeah, the barriers, I guess, of friendship or the barriers of, again, just being one of the guys. Like there's when I got hired, we had quite a few athletes who were older than I was, who
Mm.
had been at Trinity longer than I was because they were in like their fifth year kind of thing. So for me,
Gotcha.
it was something where I really had to put my foot down and establish some boundaries and some standards and push hard on that side of things, which ended up working out and there was no big pitfalls or big relationship issues or anything like that, but early on it was I remember having a lot of conversations with some of my colleagues at other schools being like, how do you handle that? And a lot of
Yeah.
them kind of said the same thing. It's like, you're the same age, like you kind of just need to grow out of that.
Yeah.
Until now I'm way old, well, not way, I'm older than most of our I'm older than all of our athletes. I'm way older than most of our athletes, um, to the point now where, yeah, I don't have those kind of same issues, but
Got you.
it was just one of those things that took time and a lot of effort.
Okay. Okay. That's good, man. Uh, I know that that could be a tough transition to, just in class with these guys, and now you you the head man in charge. It's like you trying to tell them something, and they're like, "Man, you cold, bro. Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Got you. Okay. Okay. So, you teach discipline. How do you balance that without being too harsh on the athlete? A lot of programs or a lot of coaches, you know, they tend to cuss at the athletes or, use that stern military style with the athletes. But you're in a Christian school, so I know that's probably not something that you practice. I spoke to a coach, football coach sometime last year, and he was telling me that he didn't want to do that at all. He didn't want to use cuss words at his athletes because, it just didn't show a good representation of him. So he found a better approach. How do you balance that discipline without being harsh?
For me, it comes back to explaining to the athletes why I'm being hard on them. So one of the things I'm really big on is attendance and showing up on time. So for me, I hate when people come late, and I hate when people just ghost me and don't come at all.
Mm,
And so those happened quite frequently when I first started, and thankfully they don't happen very much anymore. But for me, a lot of it comes down to a clear message, and I'll always use myself as an example, and I'll always try to relate things back to real life. So for example, one of the things I always talk about for our athletes is like, you're a Spartan athlete 365 days out of the year. Like, we just finished our winter break. Over winter break, I set out clear expectations for what was required of them from a training standpoint. So it's not sweet you get a month off. It's you need to, work out 3 times a week or 2 times a week for the next 3 weeks until I see you again.
yeah.
And I always go back to, like, I know that, you might not want to do that, but listen, I'm a husband and I'm a dad. That's a 365-day a year job. I can't just go to my wife and say, no, honey, I don't want to be married for this month. I'm going to
Yeah.
go off with some other girl, or like, I'm not going to feed my kids today because I don't really like doing that. I don't
Yeah.
care if you don't like lifting weights. I don't care if you don't want to do this. You have to. You're a Spartan athlete. This is what is required of you. And so a lot of it comes back to trying to paint the picture of, like, I'm trying to teach you more than just, winning on Friday. Like, you're going to be a husband and a wife someday, hopefully, if that's kind of what God's call is. And I want you to have learned, the importance of discipline, the importance of accountability. And same thing with communication. So if an athlete can't make a session, I always get them to communicate with me. Because again, if I'm going to work late tonight, I can't just not text my wife and show up 3 hours late and go, oh, hey, honey, how's it going? Like, she's going to be mad at me. And I always say,
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to have a wife very long. So, like, I would say, like, treat me like your wife or your husband. Text me, communicate with me, because we want to make sure we have that good relationship. And I want to teach you that, if you're going to be late for work, call your employer. Or if you're going to, again, be late at work, call your wife, call your husband, text your kids, whatever it is. Like, there's a lot of things that, thankfully, I've made mistakes as a dad, as a husband, and I'm trying to teach my athletes not to make those same mistakes now as
Yeah.
an athlete, where again, they might not get it, but hopefully in a few years from now, that's where I get those texts of, like, you know, not that, hey, Cole, you saved my marriage kind of thing, but like, hey, like, you've made me, a better husband, a better wife, a better parent, because of the discipline. So for me, I'm very stern and strict on our standards, but I always support them. I always show that I'm there with them. And then I always give examples of, like, why does this actually matter? Because it matters way more than just, I'm upset because you didn't show up to lift. It's, I would rather me be upset at you now than your husband be upset at you, 3 years from now. So, like, let's make sure we kind of develop those characteristics we need to when you're still young.
Got you. Yeah, that's setting a good foundation for manhood, because I think it's important to have that communication is very important. You can't really get away from that. In any aspect, like you said, employer, relationally, whatever aspect of life it is. I think that's kind of what like prayer is too, communicating with God where you at, what you weak at, what you need, what you messed up on, whatever. I think that's important. Um that's good, man. That's good. So a lot of athletes struggle with identity problems, right? Maybe they didn't have a good game the last game or whatever the case is. How do you coach through that identity crisis, or mental health, or they having issues at family, at home, or confidence issues? Like, how do you coach them through that?
Yeah, that's tough. A lot of it comes down to trying to make sure every individual is seen and heard. So every single athlete that comes in our weight room, I always make a point of checking in with them and at least saying
Yeah.
their name. We
Okay.
we run a lot of sessions. There's a lot of athletes. I don't get to have 10-minute heart-to-heart conversations with everybody, but I always try to make sure that every athlete that walks in our space, you know, enjoys their time, gets better, all those other things. But for me, it's like, I want to make sure I connect with them and just, hey, how's it going? How was school? How's exams? How's your Christmas break? Just those little things show that, I genuinely do care. Um, and I want to check in with them more than just as an athlete. I want to check in with how they are as a human being.
Mm.
And a lot of those, are just, hey, yeah, things are good. But some of them do go deeper, like, yeah, this happened at home or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, hey, how about we have a conversation about that? And I've had, innumerable conversations in my office, athletes crying, there's been a lot that has happened over the last 6 years that we've kind of walked through, and I've been able to walk athletes through at certain times, um, through God's grace, obviously. But I think a lot of it just is, as coaches, making sure we're not just, hey, what's your squat number? Hey, how many points did you score? Because if we're only reflecting them as an athlete back to them, that's all they see themselves as. So for
Mm.
me, I think a lot of it just comes down to, like not even asking them about the weekend, because I saw the weekend, I saw the game. I know they didn't play good. I know they're
Yeah.
upset about it. I don't need to bring that up. So for me, a lot of it just comes back to, like, not sweeping it under the rug, but just like moving past it. Hey, that's done. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care that you lost. Let's just pick it up today. I'm going to be the same this Monday when you lose as next Monday when we win, because that doesn't matter. All that matters is you're here, I'm here. Let's make the most of it. Let's, get better together. I'm going to check in with you. How are things? Kate, let's kind of get after it. So I think a lot of it is, again, not forgetting that they're an athlete by any means, but just not worrying about it and treating them like an individual, and making sure that they're seen and heard, and giving them a space to talk if they need to. Because not everybody does. Not everybody's
Yeah.
going to open up. But showing that I'm willing and able to have those conversations has been huge.
Yeah. Humanitarian side of things, man. I like that. I like that. So what do you think is what do you think athletes struggle with more? Is it physical weakness, or like identity weakness, or mental weakness? What do you think is the biggest struggle for them?
Oh, it depends on the athlete, but I would say today, like in today's day and age with social media and all this stuff, I would say, like, the identity side, the mental side, I
Mm.
guess, is maybe not necessarily something that they struggle with, but it's harder to be good at. Like,
Mm.
I specialize in making athletes, again, bigger, faster, stronger. It's easy to make somebody stronger. It's easy
Yeah.
to make somebody bigger. It's really hard to make somebody, more confident. It's really hard to make somebody not care about what was said about them on Instagram. It's really hard to not have people compare themselves, what they look like, and all those things. So I would say it's not even that they struggle with, it's we don't have experts in that. We don't have I'm not an expert in that. We don't have resources that way. So when people struggle because they're weak or because they, aren't eating well, I can fix that. If they're struggling because, again, social media or, other mental or anxiety, like those kind of things, like, obviously we
Yeah.
have professionals on that side, but it's way harder to overcome those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think that would be what I'd say is it's tough. It's tough living in between your ears and just dealing with your own brain all the time. Like, that's it, yeah. Yeah, we all
Yeah.
we all have dark spaces in there, and we all know it's tough. So I actually heard a really interesting quote. One of our athletes said it, like, the other day, and it was just kind of like a joke in passing, but it actually really hit me. He was just like, yeah, you wouldn't survive a day in my brain.
Mm.
And it was just like, again, he was just kind of joking, but it was like, dang, like, that's a really deep quote. Like, I think things are tough, but, I only deal with my brain. Like, I have no idea what everyone else is going through. That might
Yeah.
be way better, it might be way worse, but we're all on our own journey. And I think it's something where, um, yeah, we need to do a better job of providing resources and providing examples of, how to, not take your identity in sport and continue to pursue excellence, but strive for higher things. And I don't have the answer for that, but I just know that that's for sure a weakness in college athletics, for sure.
Yeah. It's man, that's a deep quote. That is a deep quote.
Yeah.
'Cause I've heard, I think there's another one where if everybody had to drop their problems and pick up some random person's problem, you'd be looking for your problems again. You know, a lot of times we think, it's easier on the other side, but it's usually not. Everybody has different things that they may go through. Somebody might be, have the money, but they're struggling with other family issues or anything. And somebody might have lacked the money and be like, man, I just want the money and I'll take his problems. And sometimes you don't want to do that. So that's big, man. Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, no spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten by God. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace. Are you able to identify that if, somebody, a lot of times people don't open up with those things. Maybe some do, but some don't. So in training them, are you able to like identify that in them and address it a little bit or ask them about it? Or do you kind of just, point them to like a Bible scripture or words of encouragement? Like, what do you do? Like,
For me, it's tough because I only see the kids for a few hours a week, so it's a pretty controlled environment.
got you.
Like, so it's not, yeah, so that's tough. But I would say I'm able to help if I see any changes. Like if you come in and you're always happy and smiling and joking and stuff, and then you come in one day and you're just quiet and over in the corner,
Yeah.
you can bet I'm probably going to walk over to you and just, again, hey, how's it going? And I know your answer is not going to be, oh, I'm great. It's going to be, oh, things are okay. And it's like, hey, do you want to talk about it and that stuff? But we've got some athletes who, they don't like lifting weights, or they're just kind of like a somber kind of person. And so they're always like that. And so when I
Yeah.
check in with them, it's like, yeah, things are good, but they always say it that way. So I don't know if they're like genuinely struggling, or they just, aren't a happy go lucky kind of person. And so that I would say is, for coaches is looking at, changes in personality or changes in responses is the biggest thing. If someone, again, is always happy and then one day they're not, that's a
Yeah.
pretty good sign. But for people that just kind of are, more introverted or just a little more, cup half empty kind of people, it can be tough to notice or recognize, I guess, serious things like are they actually struggling, or are they just, they're just having a bad day? Um, but yeah, it's tough. It for sure is tough to recognize those kind of things.
Okay. Okay. So I want to build my strength up a little bit. I want to get better conditioning. Like, what are my first 3 steps that I need to take to build up my strength and my conditioning?
The biggest thing would be to set goals for yourself, like to know, like, what do you actually want? Why do you want those things? And figuring out the why for yourself, and as a coach for my athletes, is huge, because that's going to play a huge factor in the motivation. The second thing would be to get a plan. And obviously that's what I do,
Yeah.
set out the plans for the athletes. But a lot of people just, they show up to the gym, or they kind of just, oh, I'm going to start doing this. They don't really know what's going on. Whereas if you have a set plan that you can follow, it's way easier. It's like school. School would be really hard if you didn't have a curriculum and you just showed up every day and they're like, well, we'll just kind of teach you what we want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that. And then the third thing is just start. That's the biggest thing that people struggle with is everybody wants to start tomorrow. Everybody's going to do this. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you start it today, then you're going to build the habit of doing it. So figuring out the why is a big one. And then again, having a plan and then just starting it. It doesn't matter if it's the worst plan in the entire world. Doesn't matter if you got it off Chat GPT. Doesn't matter if, you paid $1,000 for it. Just
Yeah.
start doing it, because you're going to get way more results from a crappy plan that you are following than the perfect plan that you're not actually doing. So that would be my thing for that.
Okay. Yeah, that's sound advice. I'm easy. I'm an easy start. Like I could start something. I think for me, it's the plan. You know, I don't always plan to do stuff. I just start it, and then I'm like, oh, this may be a little bit more than I'm, bit off I could chew, but um, yeah, for me, I could start easy, and a lot of people overthink. I'm not an overthinker in that sense. Like, I just start it and go for it. But yeah, that's good, solid advice. I know it's in the early parts of the year, so everybody's like New Year's resolution and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's good, sound advice, man. Everybody's starting right now, but they have to come up with a plan to be consistent for the next few months and into the rest of the year. So that's good. Um, when somebody keeps failing, what do you think they actually need more of? Accountability, clarity, or a healing?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it depends on what they're failing or what they're struggling with. Um, I think clarity is probably the biggest one. Like a lot of people fail because they don't actually understand what is required of them. And I see a lot of that here in the university setting where there's just a misalignment of expectations from,
Mhm.
the sport coach and the athlete. Like the athlete's coming in thinking they're going to play, and the sport coach is like, well, you're a freshman. Like I'm going to play my, second, third, and fourth years. So then the
Yeah.
freshman's upset because they're not playing when, they're working hard and all this stuff. So I think a lot of it, you know, they think they're failing, but they're really not. So it just comes down to clarity of understanding like what your role is, what is actually expected of you. There is obviously an accountability piece that I think some people struggle with, but I feel like if you have clarity, the accountability is kind of tied in with that. Like again, so over our breaks, let's say our winter break, what I used to say to our athletes is, hey, make sure you work out over winter break. And then they'd come back and I can see, so we have an app where you can track people's workouts.
Yeah.
And I can see you worked out once and your teammate worked out 10 times. Well, it's obvious you didn't do enough, but all I said was you need to work out. And so you get to
Mhm.
go, I did. Coach, I did work out. I did that one workout. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So now that's why, as I mentioned earlier, like I set clear expectations. Like you need to work out
Got you.
3 times a week because
Got you.
again, now there's no wiggle room. It's very clear to say you didn't do it
Yeah.
or you did do it. Like, so I would say clarity is the biggest one because within clarity, it gives you expectation or accountability because now
Okay.
you know if you hit those clear expectations or not.
Yeah.
Um, and there's different people. There's some people that are, need a little more accountability. Some people need a little more clarity, but I try to cut through the middle and give as much. I'm an over communicator. I will
Yeah.
always, my goal is that people never say, oh no, I didn't know that. Like I want them
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, Cole, we know. So, um, I try to make sure that I'm very clear. So there is a lot of clarity, but that I also have those accountability pieces in there. So hopefully we're tackling both, but I think clarity is way more important.
Okay. Yeah, that's sound advice, man. To be clear, so now you can hold somebody accountable. Because sometimes people are like, "Oh, you didn't tell me that."
Yeah.
Like, that's good. That's good. Okay, so husband, father, two girls. Let's start with the husband piece. Like, what does being a husband mean to you, and how has that changed your life?
Oh man. Um, well, being a husband to me is the fullness of accountability.
Mm,
Um, because I now have, my wife and I are one. We are bonded through marriage and through the church. And to me, being a husband really comes down to being a man and manning up and doing the hard things. And it's like all the little things that I preach every day about discipline and accountability and communication, like all of that is needed and summed up in being a husband.
yeah,
And a lot of it comes down to struggling every single day through not communicating enough, through, not doing the dishes, through not taking out the trash, like all those little things that we kind of joke about as men, but it's like this is serious. Like
Yeah.
being married is serious business. And
Mm.
I think a lot of men don't take it seriously enough. And that's why, divorce rates are so high, and
Yeah.
and marriages are in the toilet, and a lot of it's not because we're not good guys or whatnot, but I think it's just we need to just take it seriously. Like
Mm.
marriage is not a joke. Marriage is Christ and the church. Marriage is like what we are called to do as men, most of us
Yeah.
anyway, not that everybody is, but for those of us that are called to marriage, like we need to treat that as a calling from God, not just like, oh, hey, I like this girl, she's pretty, I want to have sex with her, so I'm going to marry her. It's no, like God
Man,
has
say that
bonded.
again, man. Say that again. That's good,
And
bro. That's
yeah,
that's
like
good.
it's not, yeah, like God has called me to marry my wife. Like
Yeah.
I'm someone who believes in soulmates. I maybe
Yeah.
believe I could have multiple soulmates and that there isn't just one person, but I believe that my wife and I are destined to be together, and God has brought us together for the fulfillment of his um his church, for his mission, for what he has designed for us.
Yeah.
And I can't take that lightly. I can't take that as a joke that when my wife is upset, whatever, she'll get over it.
Yeah.
No, we're going to do things no, like if she's mad, I need to make it right with her. If she asks me to do something, I need to do it. Like I need to, again, be accountable and hold myself responsible, and be serious about it, because again, it's not just, she's a pretty girl and I like her. It's, she's my wife. She is a
Yeah.
part of me now. We are one flesh, and I need to treat it like that. And I think a lot of people, especially non-Christians, but even Christians, like we just don't. We just kind of laugh it off at, you go on social media and there's so many memes and reels about, husbands doing stupid stuff or the wives
Yeah.
nagging them. And it's like, yeah, we can all relate, but that's not a good thing. Like we
Yeah.
need to make sure that we are being better and calling ourselves to a higher standard. And, whether I need to get on my soapbox and do that too, and I'm not perfect by any means. You can ask my wife, but, it's, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show, like I'm striving to be the best I can. And if my wife tells me to do something better, you can be darn sure I'm going to do it better, because happy wife, happy life is probably the most true statement I've ever heard in my entire
Yeah.
life. Um, and we need to take that seriously as men. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a ramble, but I think we just need to take it way more seriously.
That's good, man. That's good. There's so much to unpack in that because, like you said, it's a mission from God. It's like, it's a you have to take it so serious. You can't take it for granted. And I think a lot of men they come into the thing, well, let me just provide, let me just protect. They look at those two things and be like, that's it. Like, I show up with a check. I got my muscles. If something happened, I could do a little protection. But it's way more than that. It's thinking about the things that's a lot of times looking at the blind side for that person, looking at their blind spots, and they're covering your blind spots. And I think a lot of men we just put it as, oh, I'm gonna provide, and she could be happy, and it's way more than that. When I hear women complain, it's way more. The little things. Like, oh, you didn't come into the store with me, or you didn't watch our favorite show, or he doesn't have time, or I always like to say, women you got to be well-rounded with women, well-rounded. You can't just be like, you know, I'm providing, that's it. It has to be a well-rounded thing, because she's going to need the time, she's going to need the finances, she's going to need all these things, she's going to need you to hold her hand, be soft with her, you know she's gonna need every aspect of that. So and she's gonna let you know. A lot of people are putting these blanket statements on marriages and relationships, but I think to each his own. What your wife requires from you is not necessarily what my wife may require from me. So we have to understand that difference. And yeah, it's important, man. So that's big, that's good stuff, man. Now to the fatherhood part of it, about it. What is fatherhood teaching you?
Everything. Fatherhood is,
Patience.
yeah, patience. Yeah, fatherhood teaches me Oh man. Fatherhood teaches me that I need to make sure I'm at my best at all times.
Mm,
And that doesn't mean that I can't have a bad day. That does mean I can't slip up. But one of the things that my wife is on me about is a lot is I'm trying to be the best strength and conditioning coach in the entire world. And so I
yeah,
devote a lot of time and energy and effort to that. And then I come home and I'm exhausted and my two girls want to play with me. I cannot just sit there and go, no, daddy's tired. No, no, I'm going to sit here on my phone. No, I'm exhausted. So like, that's awesome that you gave your full effort at work, but now you need to give your full effort at home. You can't
mm,
just be, like you just said, you can't just be someone that provides and then sit around at home. So that's something that I've really worked on over the last number of years, with my girls is like, I want to be the very best strength and conditioning coach in the entire world. And I want my athletes to say that about me. But I want to be the very best dad in the entire world. And I want my girls to say that about me too. And I want them to love me. And I do love them, but I want that relationship with me and my girls to be, even better than the ones I have with my athletes. I want people to talk about how great of a dad I am, before they talk about how good of a coach I am. And so it's just a lot of it's taught me, yeah, patience, but I think priorities
yeah,
and trying to understand that, my career is, I take my identity in that probably way too much, but I need to make sure I'm trying to take my identity again in what God has also called me to do, and that's be a husband and a father and
mm,
to be an example for these girls because you know, as I mentioned just briefly, like I only coach these athletes, a few hours a week. I'm, coaching, quote unquote, I'm coaching my girls, all the time. Like when
yeah,
I'm playing with them, I'm coaching them. Like they are going to be a representation of who I am. And so again, if I'm lazy, sitting on the couch, cussing, listen to bad music, those kind of things, they're going to grow up and be a product of that. And
yeah,
I really want my daughters to be, you know, I want them to go to heaven. I want them to be, saints in heaven, but I want them to be amazing people while they're on earth. And
yeah,
to me, the biggest compliment a parent can ever receive is to just have someone compliment their kids. And I want people, to compliment my kids so that I feel good about myself. But I want my girls to live strong Christian lives, and I need to make sure I'm an example to them of what a loving father is like. Because from a pressure standpoint, like I've learned a lot of stuff where because God is our father, a lot of kids see God the way they see their dad. So if
mm,
their dad is really strict, they think of God as really strict. And
yeah,
I remember learning that when I was younger and like not really thinking about it. And now that I got kids, it's like, dang, that's pressure. Like I am God to my kids. Like
yeah,
God is going to be who I am.
yeah,
And so I need to make sure that I'm loving and forgiving and all these things because I don't want them to grow up with a skewed, vision of who God is. And
mm,
so that's something that kind of has also kind of resonated with me in the last number of years is like, God would not be sitting on the couch right now scrolling, Instagram reels. Like he'd be diving into that puzzle or, coloring with his kids. Like he'd be doing that stuff. So,
yeah.
even just those little things and showing up every day is huge.
Man, that's big, man. That's something the balance in that is very, very tough. Even when I'm at home and trying to be present while I got this video to edit or making reels or from the podcast, whatever I'm doing, like, I try my best not to be aimlessly scrolling. And then I'll catch myself, the Holy Spirit is give me a little nudge like, hey, kids watching you. And I'll try to put the phone down and, get back to it and show them that attention. But it's definitely, I think for a lot of men, it's probably the most difficult thing is balancing that work life and family life. It's like, man, I got to provide, but I also need to give them all my time, and show them things in this world, talk to them, even though they may not fully understand, like you just said earlier, your dad told you something that still, resonates to you today, like you said, that voice in your head that is going to be God to them when they get older, they're going to be hearing things that you tell them now to when they get ready to get married to all these different things in areas of their life, and the time goes by so fast. Um, you got a 4 year old and a 2 year old. I got a almost 2 year old and a 1 year old. So it's like the time goes by quick, man. At times I sit there and I look at them. I'm like, I just get visions of seeing them older, and I'm just like, I can't, I can't even process all of that right now. I'm seeing them when they teenagers and stuff, and I'm like, God, like they're girls, so it's like that makes it even a little harder. The fact that they're girls, can't be too stern. You got to be gentle, but you can't be too, a pushover. So it's a lot of balance in that with that, man. That's where a lot of prayer comes in, just for the wisdom to be able to guide them in the right direction, man. So that could be, be good kingdom women, and to, like Jesus said, you got to bring heaven on earth. I think that's all of our mission, is to bring God's heaven on earth, before we actually go to heaven. So, um, that's good, man. That's good. Um, what's one small habit that changed your life more than any big moment ever did?
Oh, one small habit. That's a great question. Um, I would say, well, in the last number of years, probably the last couple of years, is um, I go on a morning prayer walk, and
Mm,
so I remember hearing it a couple years ago. It was like the first hour of your day should be devoted to God in prayer, and the other whatever 23 hours should be devoted to God in work. And for me, I for sure, again, I love my work and I place my identity way too much in my work, but I feel that God has called me to do this, and I for sure was feel like I was doing a good job of devoting my life, to my work, my day, to working God, but I felt like my prayer life was lacking. And so in the morning, after I finish my workout and before I start any of my, admin work, I go on a walk, with God, and I just pray with him and just chat with him about, what I want to accomplish in my day, and, um, ask for his guidance and those kind of things. And I would say that has brought me a lot more peace throughout my day. I don't have any data to say that I've been more successful or, those kind of things, but I think that starting my day with Jesus and starting my day, with meditation and prayer, um, has been something that for sure has changed a lot in the last couple of years for sure.
yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. That's something where I'm at kind of right now. It's like I just started this prayer group uh for this year, and be praying every Monday at 8 p.m. So it's like that's something I got a dream last June, man, where God was like calling me to pray for. I just saw me praying online, which I was like, I don't really want to pray online. I don't, I'm so what's the word, insecure about how I pray. So God was like, it don't matter. I just need you to pray. I need you to pray for people. I need you to create a prayer group. And I was like, I'm gonna do the podcast. I'm gonna pray on there, and But he was like, nah, that's not what I asked you to do. So it's one of those things where I'm like, those prayer walks, the times that I do go for a walk and I'm praying, um, like you said, my days are so much more peaceful. Like, I could face certain things in the day versus, if I maybe rush through a prayer in the morning, or I don't go for that walk. It's just when I notice when I walk, it's different. It's a different day. And like you said, we don't have the data, but it just feels different. Like I can't explain it. It just feels different. So yeah, that's big, man. Okay, we gonna get into the lightning round. Um, what's one truth you had to learn the hard way?
uh, that life is about, what's optimal, not ideal. So it's not, hey, I want everything to be perfect, but what's optimal given the situation that you're in. So we have a small space, small weight room. You know, I don't have a ton of money at home, like all these kind of things that it's like, well, that's not what I would have drawn my life like if I
Mm,
was, a little kid, but doesn't matter. That's what God gave you. So do the best with it that you can.
that's good. That's good. That's for me. That's the podcast for me. It's not the fanciest. I'm not in a big studio or all. celebrity guests and all that, but I was just obedient to doing this and, just starting and figuring out all as I go along, Yeah, if I gotta edit myself. When I get off here, I'm editing myself and doing all these things. I don't have a big team, man. It's me and a few people that help me get, some guests. So, uh, yeah, you got to be optimal. I like that. I like that. Okay. What's a lie that you believe about yourself for too long?
Oh, that I'm, oh man, a lie that I believe about myself. That people care about what I look like for my
Mm,
job. So in the fitness industry, obviously, there's shirtless dudes and whatnot, and I've pursued looking a certain way for a long time because I think that my identity is wrapped up in what I look like, and I
yeah.
still believe a large part of that. But so that's a work in progress. But yeah, that for sure is one.
Okay. Wow. That's big. That's good, man. That trying to figure out what you look like, that could be very, playing on your insecurities a lot, you know. But that's good, bro. That's good. Okay, what season shaped you the most, but you would not want to relieve you would not want to relieve that season of your life.
About 4 years ago, there was some pushback from some coaches here about they were just unhappy with some of the work I was doing, and they thought I needed to do a better job, and really challenged me, and it almost broke me. Like yeah, it was really tough as a young coach, as a 4 years ago. So I probably would have just had my first daughter, or maybe she wasn't even born yet. But anyway, so like just a lot happening, and that was really tough. And it's tough even for me to say I wouldn't want to go through that again, because I would love to have not gone through that. But if I don't go through that, then I'm not the coach, I'm not the man, I'm not the person
Yeah,
I am today. And so unfortunately, I will still choose to go through that. But that for sure was tough.
got you, got you. Okay. Um, what does strength look like for you today?
Strength looks like uh, doing whatever God asks of me, and just continuing to um, go about my day regardless of how I feel. So I can't not show up to work because I'm having a bad day, or because I just don't feel like it. Thankfully I do love my job and want to be here, but you know, I deal with kids who don't want to go to class, don't want to work hard, don't want to, there's all these kind of excuses. So for
Yeah,
me, strength is showing them that that doesn't matter how you feel. You need to show up. You need to do these things because, again, you're a Spartan athlete, but also you're a child of God, and God has given you this ability. You woke up today, which means God has a purpose for your life this day. And so if you don't go about it, then you're not going to know what that is. And this could be the best day of your entire life. And
man,
so why would you not take a step forward and just keep going, again, regardless of how you feel? So for me, strength is just pushing forward no matter how you internally feel.
got you, got you. Good, good stuff, man. Who are you becoming that your younger self wouldn't recognize?
Oh, I am becoming somebody who is more and more disconnected from sports.
Yeah.
So I follow our sports, like our sports here, a lot, but like I have a favorite NHL team, had a favorite NBA. Like I used to follow sports all the time, and again, I wanted to be a professional athlete. And now, if you walked up to me and said, "Hey, Cole, I'll give you a professional athlete contract," I'd probably turn it down,
Mm.
because number one, I don't think I could handle it. But to me, I don't care. Like I don't follow pro sport. I follow pro sport so that I can have conversations with my athletes in the weight room. Otherwise,
Yeah,
I don't really care. Like
yeah,
all I care about is being the best version of me so that I can serve the people that God has put in front of me, which is not, professional athletes at this time. So it's what is going to get the job done for these people. Um, and that's kind of what I kind of just focus on, and a younger me would scoff at the fact that I'm not, still playing hockey, or not that I'm not trying to pursue sports. Like, I work out so that I'm a fit, healthy, decently good looking dad. And that's
Yeah.
all that really matters. So that's that.
That's good. That's good, man. Yeah, for me, I'm kind of the same thing. Like I'm kind of disconnected. I love the NBA, but it's so hard for me to sit there and watch a game. So much going on. Like it's like I watch the highlights a little bit. Keep up with the scores, but it's hard to. As much as I loved it as a kid, and I'm about 6'3", so everybody thought I was gonna be a basketball player, but uh, just because of your height, that's so vain. Like just because of your height, it's like, oh, you gonna should be playing basketball. It's like, come on, man. It takes so much more than that. But and plus I grew up in the islands, so they don't have a lot of tall people like America does. But it's just like, man, it's so vain for people to, like, see you. Oh, this tall guy, like, you play basketball, like. Yeah, but whatever. But that's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right, so faith or fear,
Faith,
consistency or intensity,
consistency,
calling or comfort,
calling.
obedience or understanding.
Ooh, depending on who it's coming from, but I'm going to say understanding.
Okay. Growth or peace.
Ooh, growth, but not at the cost of peace.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man. Cool, cool, cool. That's the end of the lightning round. My final question, or it's not really a question, but more of a statement. Um, so we spoke about that younger version of yourself. If there is one piece of advice you could give to the teenage version of yourself, what words of encouragement would you give them?
Well, if I knew exactly what, teenage Cole was going to go through, um, I would just say, trust the process. Just trust God. Just, like, it turns out, it turns out better than you think. I wouldn't say that to my younger self because I wouldn't want to spoil it, but it's like, just have trust, and
Yeah.
you got to know that God wants the best for you, and you're not going to know what the best for you is if you don't just trust him fully and step into what he's called you to do. So that's what I would tell myself.
Mm. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, Cole, that's end all my questions, man. Please tell the people where to find you, to follow you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. So if you look up my name, Cole Hergott, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on there. Our strength and conditioning program on Instagram is at TWU Strength. And I run that, so I'll kind of get back to you. But I mean, you can look me up on Facebook. If you want to email me, I'm more than happy to chat or answer any questions. My email is my name, so Cole, Cole dot Hergott, Hergott at twu.ca. And be more than happy to chat with people, pray with people, whatever they need, and yeah, just make people better.
Good stuff, man. I always end in a prayer. Do you mind praying us out?
I would love to.
Thank you, sir.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the listeners. Thank you for giving me this platform and this opportunity to share my experience, share the way you've impacted me. And I just pray that even some small piece would impact every single listener, and that they would walk away feeling better about themselves, feeling more connected to you, and that they would just go about their day knowing that you are shining down upon them and wanting the best for them in their life. And I ask all
Yes,
this in the
Lord.
precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Good stuff, man. Well, it's been another episode of the Words of Encouragement podcast. And as my guy Cole said, trust the process, trust God in the process. So, um, this has been it, man. Peace, guys.
Thank you.
Listen, you don't always need answers. Sometimes you just need to be held up in prayer. This is a space for people who are doing the best even when it feels unseen. For the ones who are tired, hopeful, uncertain, faithful, and human, all at the same time. We come together simply to pray and encourage one another. No fixing, no spotlight, no pressure to explain your story. Just a quiet reminder that you are seen, heard, and not forgotten by. If life feels heavier than usual, you don't have to walk through it by yourself. You're welcome to join our prayer group. Just comment prayer, send a DM, or use the link provided when you're ready. Peace.
Thank you for watching the Words of Encouragement podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube.